killers, the minds, methods, and mayhem of history's notorious murderers, I explored this theme as it relates to many different offenders. Most were well-known criminals such as John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez, and Ted Bundy. These names are iconic, their faces and list of atrocities infamous throughout modern popular culture. For this second volume, my intent was to put some lesser-known serial killers under the microscope. The names that comprise the chapter list for this book tend toward the obscure, but they are no less fascinating, and unfortunately, every bit as appalling. The serial killers on whom this book focuses are grouped together in a loose sequence based upon the nature of their public lives. Within it, we will meet paramedics, physicians, and nurses, painters, gardeners, and handymen, chefs, accountants, and real estate brokers. There are even entertainers and media personalities, such as the author and TV presenter Jack Unterweger. Many were veterans, having served in their country's military. Some, such as Colonel Russell Williams, were even on active duty at the same time they were committing murder. A career is not necessary for a serial killer to maintain a separate life. Steady employment is helpful, true, but hardly essential. Neither is being a lone wolf always the case. We will look at murderers such as Australia's notorious Snowtown killers, who formed a clique, and couples who killed together, as in the case of Canadians Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, the so-called Ken and Barbie killers. Ranging from drifters to high-ranking military officers, it is clear that serial killers can be found in all walks of life. In addition to profiling 30 of them in this book, I have tried to address their motivations for doing what they do. The listener will undoubtedly notice that in many cases there is a sense of deep resentment and anger, either at the world and humanity in general, or directed at a specific human being, a parent, a spouse, or lover, which is then projected upon innocent victims. The age-old debate of nature versus nurture arises again and again within this book, and each individual chapter provides a slightly different answer. Some serial killers seem to be born broken, and whether they were raised in a warm and loving environment or grew up in an abusive, toxic nightmare, they would probably have turned out the same way regardless. They are, to put it succinctly, born with bad wiring. Others seem to be more a product of their environment, and might not have grown into killers if they had gotten a better start in life. For every serial killer coming from a broken home, however, there is one whose family loved them, and even doted upon them, perhaps even in some cases a little too much. The listener will notice that the sections in this book vary in length. As I immersed myself in legal documents, reports, and other resource materials, it soon became clear that certain individuals were more suited to getting a deep dive than others. Shorter chapters are interspersed with longer ones in an attempt to break things up somewhat while still maintaining a structure that groups similar cases together. Lastly, a word about the level of depth and description in the book seems apropos. The author of any true crime book walks a fine line between providing an appropriate amount of detail in order to catalog the subject matter and not providing so much that the end result appears both lurid and in bad taste. I have striven to strike a balance to the best of my ability, and if the text errs too far on one side or the other, the responsibility lies entirely with me. The subject of serial killers is by turns both fascinating and abhorrent. It is all but impossible to study them and their behavior without feeling a sense of overwhelming compassion for their victims, most of whom suffer an excruciating ordeal at the hands of these monsters. That sense of sympathy can, in some cases, extend to the family members of the murderers themselves, who oftentimes have no idea whatsoever about their loved one's secret evil side. Our deepest sympathy should certainly extend